Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is such an honor and pleasure to be here on video for you today. It's so awesome that today, for these first, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, we are going to have 60 plus degree weather in North Carolina. Yay! Unfortunately, it does not mean that spring is here to stay, but spring is here for a few days, so I am celebrating that today. I wanted to go live today and talk about, I've been coaching a bunch of teens over the last few days, and this has helped me kind of reconnect with my own teenage years and remembering all those experiences that I had as a teen and as a young person, and connecting with some of my other younger friends that I have. I'm also just became a mentor for 3 other young people that are early career women. So I'm super excited about that. But from this process, to all these conversations I'm having with different teens and everything, and remembering my own teenage experience, I'm like, you know what? There's just one thing that's just like a fact. Like, growing up is hard. And it's even still hard to grow up when you're 44. I will say it. Yes, I am still growing up, even though I'm 44. These, things were definitely difficult, when I was a teen. I know that my own parents, especially my mother, dealt with a lot of different challenges. My mother grew up during the, civil rights movement when they were integrating schools and that sort of thing. So that was definitely one of those things that was a growing up is hard thing that happened during her youth. Mine, just the normal bullying and teens and preteens just being incredibly hateful people. That was a big part of my experience. And speaking with the teens that I've been coaching, it's like kids haven't gotten any nicer in middle school or high school than they were when, back in the 90s. Like, what is it about that age that there's just like a group of people that handle, heading into adolescence by being a jerk to others and really hateful to others and picking on others and making others' lives miserable. It seems to be this universal experience. It doesn't seem to matter what era people have grown up in. And I don't know what it is. I'd love to talk to a psychologist or something about this in detail who's really studied adolescence to find out why certain subset of adolescents are so hateful. It certainly makes growing up for the ones that aren't hateful very, very tough. And I'm guessing that the ones that are hateful probably have some really difficult things going on at home, and that is their way of handling that. So it's also really, really tough for them. But one of the other things that's been really universal and kind of along the theme of growing up is hard, and I've seen this come up with multiple teen clients, is kind of this feeling that my mom doesn't understand me, or my dad doesn't understand me, my parents do not understand me. And this is something that follows us into adulthood, right? When we get married or we have a boyfriend or a fiance or whatnot, we tend to at times find ourselves saying, this person doesn't understand me, right? My spouse doesn't understand me. My girlfriend doesn't understand me. My boyfriend doesn't understand me. Whoever it is you're dating or married to doesn't understand you. And as a teen, they're experiencing that doesn't understand me with their parents, with regard to their parents. They feel like their parent is older than them, is kind of already walked this trail, and that person's their child and they should understand them. And this is just the fun thing about the thought that somebody, whoever it is, doesn't understand me. Brooke Castillo teaches something about what she calls the manual. So we all have what she refers to as a manual for other people. So you might have I'll just give an example. So for me, I have an internal manual for how my fiance should behave. So if I'm sad or if I'm hungry or if it's garbage day, whatever it is, he should behave following, the prescribed behaviors I have for him in my head in his manual. And things get off kilter and people get upset with one another. Like, for example, I'm just going to talk about myself. Get upset with my fiance when he doesn't behave in the way that in my personal manual he should behave in this particular scenario. And then I get frustrated and angry, and he doesn't understand, and he gets frustrated and angry back at me, right? Well, the same thing happens with teens. So I have like a teen, for example, it says like, my mom doesn't understand me. And so that causes them to lash out at their mom and be hateful or angry to their mom and yell at their mom. And their mom's like, the result of that is mom's like, I don't understand what's going on with this kid. But really what's happening, just like in the case of my fiance, the kid is experiencing something in their life. It could be, some sort of anxiety, some sort of, they had a breakup, whatever the kid is experiencing. And by their imaginary manual that they have in their head, mom should be behaving in a certain way. Mom should come and wrap their arm around them and tell them they love them and ask them, can they, take them someplace fun? Can they go get their nails done together? Or can mom make them their favorite dessert or whatever it is, right? Can mom, take them for a drive and talk and spend this time with them? But see, mom doesn't know that that's what their teenager wants them to do. Because mom's just like, they come in, the teenager's upset, they don't get it, right? And then the teen gets more upset because their mom doesn't behave in the way that in their little imaginary manual, mom should behave. And therefore, the teenager feels like that their mom doesn't understand them. And then so they lash out and they're hateful and they yell and scream and cry and have an outburst. And poor mom's going like, what is going on with my kid, right? And the teen is like, mom is such a jerk. But the teen is expecting mom to behave in a certain way, but the mom doesn't know that that's the expected behavior because mom doesn't have a copy of the manual, the teenager's manual for mom's behavior, because it's something inside her, so mom has no idea why, right? So then we have this whole miscommunication thing. Mom's like, there's something wrong with my kid, they're hateful to me, they yell at me, I don't get them. And teen's like, my mom doesn't understand me, she's not there for me. But really you just have you have one person expecting the other person to read their mind, and then when that doesn't happen, they're lashing out. And then the other person who's being lashed out at doesn't say, hey, why are you lashing out? They just, then they go off, they create a reaction, right? And then so there's this total miscommunication, and this causes like a fracture in the relationship. And it causes moms to be exasperated. Oh, what is up with my teen? And causes teens to be moody and pouty, and my mom doesn't understand me, nobody understands me, the world doesn't understand me. So, that's like a thing that's universal, and, it happens so much when we're growing up, and it makes growing up hard because we have these expectations that people should know what we need, and they don't, and then we get mad when they don't fulfill them. But it's the thing that growing up can continue to be hard your whole life, even when you're 45, even when you're 65, because you're still operating from this perspective of somehow in your mind, you think that the other person should automatically know what you need or what you want, and they don't know. And because they don't know, you get angry at them. And then they don't understand why you're angry at them, and y'all just get in a fight, right? So it's like this thing that starts in adolescence, which makes growing up hard to do, where we're expecting people to know what we need, and just continues until we're older, unless we learn, kind of like the things that I teach in coaching, until we learn how to manage our mind and how to not make one person not asking, oh my gosh, what's going on with you? Mean something, right? How to manage our mind and how to take control of our thoughts, and also how to be aware that we create this invisible manual that we expect other people to live by, and they don't know about it, obviously, and they don't live by it, and they have the same thing for us. So until you learn these things that we teach in coaching, it's like growing up continues to be hard, even if you're 40, even if you're 50, even if you're 60, because we haven't learned how to account for these just normal things that happen in human behavior and communication. And since we don't learn, if you don't learn those things, it's like you continue to repeat this teenage growing up is hard, like arguments back and forth kind of thing that you had when you were, started when you were 10 or 12, right? So it's so crazy, so that's like one of the big things that I think, that makes growing up hard as a teenager. And then it makes it continue to be hard if you don't, learn this through coaching or through some other, way that you're able to learn kind of these human dynamics and how these things work so that you don't keep creating these scenarios. The other thing that makes growing up hard, one of the big things that makes growing up hard for teens these days, which is much worse than it was in the 90s when I was a kid, is social media, right? Like for me as a kid, the magazines, Cosmo and Teen and whatever, Tiger Beat, whatever magazines were out there, I don't even remember. Like whatever images, we were comparing ourselves to as teens in these magazines back in the day that really like crushed our self-esteem because we couldn't live up to these modified images, these photoshopped images, these retouched images in these magazines is like a bazillion times worse today for kids. And it can still hit adults in exactly the same way, can smash our self-esteem down because now everybody's cell phone, either natively or with free apps, can edit the crap out of photos. So you can make yourself, or people can make themselves look, somebody can be quite overweight, but then can make themselves look like their waist is like teeny tiny and they have this big bubble butt, which is like super desirable right now, and like really pouty lips and, super smooth skin and all this stuff. Like, and then, teens or older people, older than teens, look at that picture and they're like, oh my gosh, how does she look like that? You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I got some lines coming. My forehead's starting to get lines on it. Like, oh my gosh, I don't look like that. Like, it really like subconsciously starts to wear on your self-esteem. And as when we were younger, like those of us were born in the 90s, or grew up in the 90s or earlier, we're comparing ourselves only against magazine images or TV. Anybody can modify images these days. Anybody can make themselves look like whatever. And of course, people only post on social media. Most people anyway, only post on social media pictures of them that look really, really good with the right filter, right angle, hanging it up here, not down here where it looks like you have 12 double chins. Like people only post the best images. They only post like, oh my God, my life's so amazing. Here's a bottle of Cristal that my boyfriend got me because I'm pretty or whatever, right? Like people don't post, I just came home to my single wide trailer and my dog pooped on the floor and I gotta hurry up and clean it so I can go to my 4th job today and work another 6 hours. Like people don't post that, right? So we're all comparing ourselves, and teens are especially susceptible, but as we get older, we can still be susceptible to these things. We're comparing ourselves to this like fantasized life, right? Like I can't even tell you, like I use Canva and I love Canva because it's so much fun to do artistic pictures, but I'm amazed at like what I can do in there. Like I took some headshots that I had taken and they didn't, just had like normal portrait backgrounds, and I put myself in front of a very fancy living room and it looks like, hey, Lorna's standing in a really cool house. Lorna must live in a really amazing place. But not that I don't love my house, right? Because I do love my house, but I live in a normal person's house. And, this house looks like, of course, something that is in a magazine, right? Well, because I wanted to change the background instead of just having this boring portrait background, I wanted to make it look more interesting. So, of course, I found a background in Canva that looks like a much more fancy house than I live in. That's what I did, right? I didn't post, oh my gosh, look at my new house. Don't you love my new living room? But people could see that and think, oh my gosh, Lorna's got this amazing, fantastic living room. Look at that chandelier. It must have cost a fortune. But my chandelier is actually what the builder installed, right? So while I'm not telling people that I live in a place that I don't, somebody could automatically like assume that from seeing, like a background image or something that I chose and used Canva to create, because I wanted a creative, attractive image. There's so many tools out there to make it easier that it is something that if we're not careful, and we fall into the same traps we did as teens with the comparison thing, and which is why I said growing up is hard. Even if you're older, even if you're 40, you can think like, oh my gosh, I'm a loser. I don't live in a house with an amazing chandelier and this incredible furniture or whatever that's behind this person in their picture. They may not live there either. They may have also put themselves in front of a picture in Canva like I did, right? So we have to be really, really careful that we don't take all the images we see, especially on social media, as gospel, right? And definitely don't use them as a way to compare ourselves, because, I heard the saying once, I don't remember who said it, somebody else, you can probably tell me, you can probably answer that, but, it says, happiness is not getting what you want, it is wanting what you've got. And that there's nothing that has ever been more true than that. Like, you could be 100% happy living in a travel trailer and driving around the United States and staying in different locations. You could be even happier than somebody who lives in a $100 million mansion on the cliffs in California overlooking the ocean. Because you could have your loved one and your beloved pets, and like, you have the freedom to just go wherever you want and explore whatever you want, where that person might not have a happy relationship. Maybe they don't even have a relationship. They've got a massive mortgage. I can't imagine what the property taxes are in a $100 million place. And maybe they feel like they have to keep doing something that they don't love anymore just to be able to pay the bills for that kind of place, right? So that somebody could live in that and be miserable, while somebody who lives in a travel trailer could be like happier than anyone in the world. So be careful to not equate fancy stuff that people have or happen to be standing in front of in a photo with happiness, right? I'm gonna finish this with a little nugget from my own life. Okay. I, for 10 years, was married to a man that was very wealthy. I lived in an over $1 million condo on the 26th floor overlooking the city, had an amazing view, traveled the world, always flying business class, drinking fine champagne. Just spent the weekend on somebody's $2 million yacht, drinking fine champagne the whole weekend. Had a lot of very amazing material experiences. And I loved my husband. My husband was one that just had a wandering eye, and he was never going to be happy with just me, right? And so that was going to be my life if I stayed there. And so after 10 years, I made the incredibly difficult decision to not be in that relationship anymore and to leave. And my fiance now owns his own business, but he works very, very hard. He works 12 to 14 hours a day. He doesn't make anywhere near the money that my ex-husband made. We live in a normal middle-class house in a neighborhood of cookie-cutter D.R. Horton homes. But this man looks at me like I am the only woman in the world. I never go anywhere with him and have his eyes go looking when there's a pretty girl walk by, or even a not so pretty girl or whatever. My ex was looking at everyone, right? It was constant, comparing me to everyone. This man looks at me like I'm the only woman in the world, and he loves me with all his heart, and I love him with all my heart. And so I'm very happy with what I've got, even though financially it's not anywhere near what I once had. And that's so, so important, y'all. There's nothing wrong with I mean, you could have all the riches in the world, and if you're also happy and have someone who loves you and you have an amazing relationship, more power to you. I'm not dogging money at all. Money is great. We need it. We can use it for lots and lots and lots of good things. But what I'm saying is, focus on what is most important and what will most make you happy. Because I can tell you, I'm a lot happier living in this cookie cutter D.R. Horton home with a man who only has eyes for me than I was living in a multi-million-dollar residence with a huge view with a man who had eyes for lots of people in addition to me. So that's what I want to leave you with there. Growing up is hard, right? Took me, I was 40 years old when I said goodbye to that relationship and, left in the hopes of building something better. Growing up is hard even when you're 40, right? Even when you're 40, but you start to learn the lessons that really, really make the difference. And then when you get to a point like I am today where I get to help other people not make the same mistakes that I did, I get to help them really find their happiness and really find their core, find their self-esteem, find their self-worth, and really build a life where they're happy, It is such an honor, and I am so grateful that that's what I get to do. So I mentioned last week, I was running some free coaching session for moms and teens. I still have 2 spots left. I thought those spots were taken over the weekend, but I have one teen who's just a little nervous about, doing it. And so I wanted these spots. These spots were for February. So if that teen gets all her questions answered and she's ready to do it, I'll put her into a spot for one of my free spots for March. But for now, I've got 2 free spots left. So if you and or your teen want to grab one of those spots, DM me quickly because they will not last. I am sure they will be gone because there's somebody else I'm going to text. If they're not gone by 5 o'clock, there's somebody else who I know is struggling with their kid, and I'm going to text them tonight. So hop on that. And I just want to leave you with, growing up is hard, but you've got this. And I'm here to help. I'm happy to help you. DM me. Lots of love on this beautiful Tuesday. We'll talk soon.